And this is just kind of how it looks. You can see that it has an ultrasonic sensor with a microcontroller and a perf board, which has a buzzer, a vibrator, and a button. And in use, as something comes closer, it beeps faster. And then you can change modes so it vibrates. And then there's both. So you can, if you press the button, now it has both, for example. And I really decided to do a third eye for the blind because I was looking for a real challenge and something I could continue working on even after Blue Stamp. And I also really liked it because it had to do with real life problems. There are many people in the world who cannot see, and it's not easy for them to navigate and communicate with the world. And by having a third eye to help them, it would make their life easier. And it also it relates to what I'm thinking of doing, which is biomedical engineering. And it basically works by having an ultrasonic sensor, and the ultrasonic sensor detects objects around it through waves. And this lets the piezo buzzer and the vibrator know this is the distance, so we want the intervals between beeps or buzzes to be at this fast. And that allows them to signal to the user how far away an object is. And so I decided to do a button so that the person who's using it can choose between different modes, and they can either choose buzzing or they can hear it or both. Definitely the most challenging thing for me, and something I'm still working on, is transferring the microcontroller from an Arduino to a Nano, because it's quite hard to find an actual Nano, so there are many Nano clones, and my computer just won't go along with the clone and it refuses to work with it. So it definitely has been a challenge trying to program it and tell the IDE to accept the Nano as something that can work. And I've definitely done a lot of modifications to this project. I've added a vibrator and a button. Another modification I want to do is add a speaker so that it is able to tell people how far away an object is. And I attached it to a glove, and there's also a strap that you put on your arm that carries the battery because it's quite heavy and would be uncomfortable for someone to have to hold all the time. Another modification is switching to the Nano and having a color sensor. So after this, I haven't really worked on it yet, but I would like to add the speaker and NRF, so there's wireless communication between multiple sensors. And I would also like to finally figure out why the Nano is not working. I would also like to finish up my website and maybe turn to a Raspberry Pi so I can do image detection. Overall, Blue Stamp has been such an amazing experience. I know all the instructors have worked really hard to make this as good of an experience as possible now that everything's online, and I'm really glad I did it. It's been such a great environment. Everyone's been supportive. Both instructors and students have helped when I have problems and really been interactive and very positive. And I've learned a lot of new things, such as hardware, which I've been programming a lot, but I haven't worked as much with hardware. And I discovered I really like it. And so it's definitely something I want to consider when seeing what I want to do in the future. Thank you so much for listening. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, Asher.
How exactly does it detect the distance?
So the ultrasonic sensor has ultrasonic waves. And using a formula with light speed and time, it's able to detect how far away objects are by the waves that bounce and come back. So based off of the time it takes for the waves to reach that object and come back, it's able to understand that, oh, this is this far away and I need to let the person know that it's this distance.
So like bats. That's really cool.
It's like echolocation. That's what I was thinking exactly. Yeah, Maya?
So you mentioned liking the mechanical, like hardware aspect of it. What was it actually mechanically like trying to take all of your electronic components and like put them onto a glove and an armband?
It was quite challenging. The good thing about the armband was that um, there was the band just held the battery, and because there's a wire that connects the microcontroller to the battery, it was just a way of untangling the battery from all that mess and being easily able to take it out, charge it, and not have to carry it all the time because it's quite heavy. And you definitely, when putting it on the glove, I had already thought of it from the beginning because that was a step I knew I had to do. And so when putting all the wires together, I had organized them into sections that were easily able to be put down onto the glove. For example, the sensor had to be on the knuckles so that if you made a fist, it would be the first thing that would be going towards objects. However, the microcontroller, since it's delicate and I don't want it to break when bent, I had to put it right on top of the wrist so that when someone bends their wrist or their fingers, it won't get snapped. And that's just how you kind of have to navigate everything so that's the most comfortable and easy to locate position.
Did you ever have a time where you like put something in a location that wouldn't work and then you test it out and like you see?
I kind of drew out and analyzed where I was going to put it in the beginning. However, with the perf board, for example, when soldering, there were definitely a few times when I had to rearrange stuff because they weren't working that well with each other or they would break. And I believe that there's some folks in the bottom who had a question. Yeah. MLOU1, I believe that's your username.
Go. Question. If it, no, others have priority. I'll be last.
Okay.
Go ahead. Speak.
Okay. I've been dying to ask this question since I've seen and heard a term ever since the presentations have started. What exactly is Raspberry Pi? Every time I Google it, it comes up with pastry.
A Raspberry Pi is a sort of mini computer that is, I didn't work with one, I personally worked with an Arduino, but a Raspberry Pi is a more complicated computer. It's still very small. I don't know if I have one with me. Yes, I do. So a Raspberry Pi kind of looks like this. And if you open it up, it looks like a mini computer. And it's kind of like the Arduino, which is also a microcontroller. And you just put wires to it. And when you connect it to a program, it tells what you make what to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
It's a good question. Yeah, awesome job. That's all the questions I've seen. If anyone else has one, again, I have to scroll through to see you guys, so speak up. But awesome, good job.
Oh, I think someone had a question. I can't tell.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I would prefer the Raspberry Pi, but sorry. But Pela, did you put a threshold where in your program where if it was far away enough, you would not bother the person? So was there some...
That is automatically with the sensor at a specific distance. The waves are so weak that it just doesn't take it into consideration. And you can edit this to be a smaller distance, but there was really no reason to. Since the beats were so far away, the person would automatically be able to tell it was insignificant.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you.